of your time.
I
All
follow your lead.
all right, let's do it. Right, it's not going to go for me. We're going to have to be super. There we go.
Love that.
Hey everybody, love it. Welcome to the Mob Mentality Podcast. This is the podcast that's made all for women with busy schedules, learning how to navigate health, wellness, parenting. And we have a perfect guest with us today, Miss Kelly Majdan. And we are so excited that you're here and have these conversations today.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
It will be a lot of fun. So let's just dive right in. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your story, how you even got to where you are right now, because I know that you have a little bit of a professional background in a totally different realm than what you're in now. So let's start there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. So I sometimes like to say I'm a recovering financial advisor, but I'm still a financial advisor. So that kind of works from that perspective. I am also a board certified health and wellness coach. And really how I ended up combining these two things together was the fact I've worked in the financial services industry or working in the financial industry for over 25 years. And as working mostly with corporate 401k plans as a financial coach, financial educator, and fiduciary to the plans. So meeting with participants all these years and helping them plan their retirement years, I was watching this thing that's happening for later on was the fact that if you don't have your health in your later years, it puts extreme amount of stress on your wealth. And from a personal standpoint, my husband had brain surgery. It's now 10 years ago, which is crazy to sit there and think about that. And that was when we were in our early 40s. And so we've always kind of had health as our hobby and what we did, but it was also how we got ourselves back on track. Because while I was caregiving for him during his recovery period, which lasted about 4 months due to some complications and things,
Wow.
My lower back went out on me, which was the second time. The first time was when I was pregnant with our daughter when I was 35. So it got to the point where like, if I went to bend down or was sitting and tried to tie my shoes, I would have to push myself up because I couldn't get my back wouldn't lift me.
Yeah.
So, we had that journey for ourselves to get ourselves healthy again. And like I said, health was kind of one of those, we've just always liked it. He's a Marine and I've just always enjoyed, doing races and whatnot. Anyway, I had some friends who invited me to do this thing called a Warrior Dash. And I'm kind of like, oh, let's just go and do this. And then I stopped with like, wait a minute. What did I just sign up for? Like,
right?
What did you just hog tie me into? Like, seriously? And so it was my introduction and our family's introduction to obstacle course races. And as you know, my husband was still recovering from surgery. And we went out to this muddy field outside of Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma area. And we just had a blast. And that was that thing that got my husband like, okay, I had to have something to fight for to get myself through this. Cause like I said, we had some complications. And that just started our journey. And now we do about 3 or 4 races a year and we're in our mid 50s. And I will tell you that's just helped propel us through our health journey. And we are stronger and fitter than we have ever been in our entire lives. We were just talking about that. And it really helps too, because we've since found out over the last couple of years, my husband has something called, it's a neuromuscular autoimmune issue called Lambert-Eaton myasthenic syndrome.
Oh, which means that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. Just call LIMS. It's so much easier to say it that way. But which means if he doesn't stay active, he'll end up in a wheelchair. So It's kind of in that MS category. And there's a lot to go in there, but I won't go there. But our journey on that side, and then watching what people are doing on the financial side, I was like, okay, we've got to mirror these together somehow because they are so interrelated. And the more I got into getting my certification from a health coaching perspective, the more I identified too the issues that are also keeping us unhealthy, which is a lot to do with our planning. And that's what we do in the financial side is we do a lot of planning. So I'm like, okay, we got to bring these together because nobody plans to be unhealthy, but we don't plan to be healthy either.
Yep. Dude, that's so good.
So anyway, so that's where we're at now. And I still do financial education. I still do financial coaching, but I also do a financial spin into now I do health coaching and wellness coaching and helping people create these strategic plans. So I don't sell a product per se. It's really just going, okay, let's look at your life. What's going on? Let's create, figure out where do you want to go? Because that's what we always do with financials. Like, where do you want to go?
Yep.
Now let's back this up and look at where you are today. Let's get really aware of what's going on today. And now let's then bridge the plan, make that plan to help you get to your future goal.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that's, I love that you said you're like a financial person in recovery.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though you're still in it, because I feel the same way about counseling, because professionally, I'm a licensed therapist in the state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, I have transformed from being this counselor into this health coach. And I feel like I can sort of relate to you on so many different levels. It's like you're coming from a financial spin on things. And I look at it from creating this plan almost from like a therapeutic way.
Right.
And it does, like, health requires a plan. And I love that you're helping people be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to their health.
Yeah, but don't you find that so hard? Like, we don't want to be, we are naturally not inclined to be proactive. And that's the hardest part. I really work with people to be like, let's be intentional. I call it being intentional with your health, not being reactive, which is what we're trained to do, but being more intentional.
So I like that a lot. Where do you help people even just become intentional? Because obviously, if they're coming to you, they're aware that their health plan needs to be better.
Yeah.
But where does that intentionality first come in? What are some first steps?
So the first steps that a lot what I do with our clients is that we really talk about, okay, we need to know where we want to go because any road's going to get you wherever, and you may not be like wherever that ends because you don't have a destination in mind. And it doesn't have to be really solid. It just has to more be like, okay, I just want to live better. Okay, well, let's start there. That's okay too. Then we take a step back and we really, I call it being, just getting very, very aware of where you are in at least the three pillars of what we need to understand, which is our nutrition, our movement, and our stress. Those are the first three starting parts. But it's being kind of like, and I just lost the terminology I always use, but it's just being very consciously aware of understanding what you're doing without being negative to yourself. Just be like, hey, why am I going into the kitchen to eat food? What's going on? Like what's going on in my mind when I'm doing this? Why am I not exercising or adverse to getting up and moving my body? What is going on when I'm stressed? So because we can't start making changes to anything until we understand what we're doing initially. So we have to really take steps. And why sometimes it's not really the right word. It's like, what am I doing? What am I trying to fill? What need am I trying to fill? What is going on in my life? Because one thing that we see a lot with folks, especially when they start like I call it movement, because I try to stay away from exercise, the word, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to exercise. I'm like, okay, that's okay, fine. Let's just move your body.
Yep.
But I was working with someone one time and she's like, well, I just jumped into this really intense, almost kind of like CrossFit, Camp Gladiator kind of thing going on. And then she wasn't successful because she went from 0 to 8, so to speak, movement wise. And that led to her saying, okay, I'm done. I can't do this. When really that's not the case. It's just she didn't really recognize where she was starting from and being okay to take that first one step. Okay, maybe it's just walking a little bit more. Maybe it's going to a beginning gym class or something other that's a little bit easier but not so intense, or being okay going to that intense place and saying, I'm going to do the modifier route because I want to be in this from an accountability standpoint, but I know I can't do what they're doing. So I'm going to be okay with starting with where I can start with. and not doing that comparison demon thing about, oh, I wish I was there. Well, you're not there, but that's okay.
Yep.
Be
Oh,
like,
it is so easy to compare now with, I mean, we're just flooded with constant messages. And I think that that is one of the biggest roadblocks, especially for women, is that
yeah.
we see all these images and everybody always shares their highlights and their successes. And it's like, what about all the in between that it actually took to get there?
Yep.
And so those little small steps.
You know, and I'll tell you something. I think this has started to become a little booger in my side. Is I'm watching, because like I said, I'm 50 plus, and I start seeing these influencers who are 50 plus and they're in the health and fitness area and they're showing their bikini bodies. I'm like, okay, let's first talk about what is our definition of health for ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that, a certain body image, whatever it might be, but what I am getting at, I was talking with someone about this the other day who was very healthy, and she's like, I can't get, I don't feel healthy. I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? Like, what does health really mean to you? Like, do you really want to be that bikini body? Because I'll tell you, like, I still struggle. Like I said, I am the healthiest I have ever been, but putting me back in a bikini right now, well, one, it'd be kind of creepy with my 21-year-old son around, but I'm like, I gotta think about that one. Mom. But the other part of it is my definition of health is I can run up the stairs, because my husband's office is upstairs. I can run up those stairs and not be huffing and puffing.
Yep.
And I can do a walk. I walk with a weighted vest in the morning, so with our dog. So, and I can get that walk in, and I track how fast I'm going. So I could still fit in, some of my clothes, but can I fit in the clothes I fit in when I was in my 20s? Yeah, no, not back there. And I won't ever be back there. And I don't know whether that would be a really good thing for me to be back there too.
Okay.
So that's like getting okay with what is your definition of health, and what does that mean for you, and what does that mean that you can do?
Yep. If we can go back and just like, okay, I may not look like I was in my 20s, but is that even where I want to be at? And even is that the best for me? And what I hear you saying is like being able to redefine health at different phases of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me personally, it's completely shifted, because like I was in the CrossFit functional fitness realm, and I love the basis of that, of being able to perform daily tasks, anything that comes up at any given moment. I love that side of it, but I'm definitely not now, as a mom to 2 toddlers. I'm not in there trying to, like, my workout doesn't consist of going in and lifting heavy and PRing every day and aesthetically trying to look a certain way. It's more about my health now depends on having the energy to keep up with my kids, being able to live as long as I possibly can, since I have an autistic son. I never know what that's going to look like, as far as what is he going to require and need. Like, I need to be healthy as long as possible, because he's only going to get bigger and he's only going to get stronger. And I don't know how long he's going to depend on me. So it's like where I'm at now in this phase of life has totally transformed from where I was 15 years ago.
It does. And that's, we were talking before about your seasons. And that's the other thing that, I'm in a different season in my life now where I have a little bit more time back, because my kids are adults and my daughter can drive herself all over the place. And of course, my son's not home right now. But when I was in back in the early season, when I had the young toddlers, picking and choosing when I could work out was really more around their schedule and what I needed to do for their schedule, as well as my corporate life. So workouts, I got in wherever I could. Many times you'd see me when they were dropped off at sports, because they've played travel sports all, pretty much their entire lives. I'd be either walking the fields, or I would go try to quickly, if it was home, I would try to go quickly get in a run and then come back. So and I traveled a lot as well too. I would, being doing what I do, I think I put like 30,000 miles on my car every year. And that meant I threw my yoga mat in my car with me. So, because I didn't want to lay down on the hotel floors. So it was
tag along.
Exactly. I'm like, There's got to be one of those you could fold. I was fortunate if I could drive. So I'm like, you should see my car. It always had some sort of workout paraphernalia in it. But that was my release though, too. And that kind of adds that stress thing too. It's like, what is your stress release? Because you need to be able to fit it into your life, no matter where you are in your season. And you've got to have at least carve out a little bit of time for yourself, for that de-stress, because if you don't, you will implode. And that is horrible for your health on so many levels.
So stop talking strategically, even when it comes to busy schedule, no matter what season of life you're in, carving out that time. Like, what do you feel like is a really nice sweet spot, like that you have found? Like, how many days, how much time? Because those are all the questions that people have on.
Yeah.
It's like everybody wants a really clear-cut answer, but it's like, I feel like it is based upon, what does your schedule look like? Where does it actually fit in for you? But what's your expert advice?
Okay, so I would definitely base it on your seasons and where you're at. So like for now, like for me, where I'm at in my season, I have the ability to be able to work out 6 days a week. We pretty much do. I pretty much try to do something every day, but we have dogs or dog now. So we walk the dogs. We do a lot of walking. But I also have now learned that I started strength training when I was 48.
That's awesome.
And, I have absolutely love weights now, but there's also, now that I understand a little bit more too, kind of going back and re-educating myself over the last 4 years, as women over 50, we need resistance training. We need to add in that strength training part of our regimen. So maybe trying to do that a couple times a week, maybe 3 times a week if you can squeeze it in. No matter what age you are, start. And then, walking or running or whatever you can do to get that cardio up a little bit, because you need to get into phase, zone 2, zone 3 a little bit. That gets your heart and that makes your heart stronger. A lot of times if you're doing a very intense weight workout, you're getting yourself up there as well too. So for definition for what I do, that's what I do. What I was able to do, and I think that's the biggest key really, is that okay, so if you want to go by what they say, the CDC rules or the FDA, CDC is like, you've got to move 150 minutes during the week and you need to do 2 to 3 sessions of strength training. Okay, that's bare minimum. And if you think about it, all right, so what's 150 minutes of cardio? Well, if you did 3 10-minute slots every day for 5 days, you pretty much hit it. I think I have my math right. So
don't ask me to do the math.
I know, okay, go around a little bit around that. I think I've got that right in that respect. Okay, that's not bad. You can do a stand-up desk. You can stop when you're from the computer and like, okay, I'm going to get up and maybe if you have stairs, I'm going to walk the stairs or run the stairs. You can do something for 10 minutes 3 times a week or 3 times a day. And every day you can fit it in your life, especially when you're busy with the toddlers. If you're running with them at the park, run with them. Don't let them just walk off and do their own thing. Actually get in there and get actively involved with them. So there's ways you can fit that in. So if you're looking for kind of guidelines in that respect, at least at a minimum, get in 150 minutes a week and 2 days of at least good strength training. And it could be with the weights, ideally, or it's body weights. Pilates is always a good thing. Push-ups, you can drop and do push-ups. You can do squats. You can do lunges. You can do all sorts of things that don't require money to get healthy.
Yep. And that's such a good point. I think we think about all the obstacles that are actually going to get in the way of us achieving the goal without looking at it's like, okay, what are the actual solutions? And it's like, not cost anything. And you can do amazing things with your own body weight. And I think as people begin to lose weight, and then when they put on things like that weighted vest, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. And like I said, I love that aspect when people start doing more things like, how did I do this 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds heavier than I am now? It's pretty incredible. You said something important, really 40s, 50s, doing more strength training.
Yeah.
I don't think that's highlighted enough of how important that is for women. why did you start strength training? Like, what was kind of that aha moment? And if you can even tell us like why that is so beneficial.
Sure. Okay, so I stumbled into it, and I will tell you, it was a total vanity thing.
Okay.
Um, and sometimes pull your vanity, pull whatever's going to help you. It's all good.
That's right.
So we've been doing obstacle course challenges. And
Mm-hmm.
what I noticed with the obstacle course challenges is there were a lot of stuff I couldn't do because I wasn't strong enough. I was a cardio girl. You get me out there running, I could run. Like, I didn't run marathons, did one, check the box, good, never doing that again.
I never ran one still.
But, I mean, I didn't mind going out and running and step aerobics and, all that stuff that did the cardio, but I wasn't really ever that great with my strength training. I tried CrossFit, but I was always late because I was always running my kids. So I always had to do burpees. So I was like, okay, I'm not done with this. But anyway,
Not for me.
not for me, but I loved it. I loved the concept. So, but what really got me going into strength training later on was my daughter took a picture of me when we were hiking or walking around this park area. And I just was like, oh my gosh, that's me. So that was an eye-opening moment. And then the other thing was I looked at my arms and I was starting to get this flabby, old lady's arms. And my husband and I jab each other a little bit. And it was a very kind jab. People were like, oh my gosh, he was so mean. I'm like, and he was like, twink. I'm like, stop that.
Yeah.
But it was, I'm like, okay, I don't want that.
Yep.
I really don't want that. I want strong, good looking arms. I love wearing my tank tops. I'm in Texas. We're in, it's hot down here.
It's hot.
Yep. Exactly. And I thought, all right, well, I'm just going to start weight training. I'm going to pull out. I'm like, okay, CrossFit's great, but it just wasn't a good fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started pulling on videos of this online program I was doing that it was all weight training. And I will tell you now, I love it. Like, that's my happy place. I go into our little gym in the garage and I'm like, just give me my 45 minutes time to myself. And I push myself harder because I'm in there and I'm like, okay, I want to lift more than I did last time. I want to curl now 15 pounds. I'm going to curl 20 pounds. I'm like, I'm going to push myself to do this. And I'm going to keep away from those old lady arms. And I don't want those. So that was my personal thing. What I have discovered now, though, too, and doing a lot of research on it, we as women will start losing our muscle mass faster out after the age of 50. And it has a lot to do with our hormones, has a lot. I mean, there's so much more you can go. You can do so many really long podcasts on this, but I recommend like Dr. Gabrielle Lyons is probably one of the best people you could listen to from that perspective.
Okay.
But we lose so much weight, or we lose our weight loss as we get older comes mostly from our muscle. And a lot of that is hormonal driven. And what happens there then, and there's a part of it that starts pulling the calcium out of our bones. There's one little aspect, but then there's all sorts of other things that are going on that are much more technical and above my pay grade. But the biggest thing is that the way we end up later on and hurting ourselves later on as older women is breaking bones, losing our traction, losing our balance, losing all of that stuff. And that leads to faster death for women as we go. So to maintain your testosterone levels, which is important for women as well too, your estrogen, progesterone, all of that, strength training helps, especially on the testosterone side. It doesn't replace everything. There's a whole nother concept and talk there for sure. But we will be stronger, more fit, and create longer lives by concentrating on our strength as well as not just our cardio. And our strength becomes more important to us as we get older versus our cardio.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting is it's like we think about lifting whenever, you're younger. And it's like, I think even as you get age, and I feel like this is even something that when I was going through my pregnancies, because I had my kids at advanced maternal age, which seems crazy. I'm like, I'm healthier now than I ever was before. And it's like, don't lift that. Don't do that. And I was like, this is actually really good for my body.
It is. It
And
is.
as you get older, just having that perspective shift and be like, this is actually very good for me. And I'm not here to hurt myself. Like, I'm actually here to be stronger and more capable. And I need it now more than ever.
Absolutely. And the thing too, and I love that you had that mind shift in that perspective, because I think, and again, this is something that I fight with a lot. Well, I will get on my little soapbox. This for your age crap. And I
Mm-hmm.
call it crap for a reason, because you shouldn't let your age limit what you're capable of doing or your situation of being pregnant and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was doing step aerobics back in the day when step aerobics was really popular.
Yeah.
When I was 8 months pregnant with my son. And I was being very careful about it. I had a low riser at that point in time. And I remember we had a substitute teacher come in, and she looked at me like, and she literally in front of everybody asked, "Should you be in here?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, the other instructor, she'd seen me prior pregnancy and everything. We were, I was always in there. And, just that thought that just because you have a big fat belly because you're pregnant, right, does not mean that you are not capable. In fact, you're going to have a better pregnancy, an easier pregnancy, if you maintain your health throughout
Mhm.
your pregnancy. I
Yep.
mean, and then beyond from that perspective, you'll have everything in life becomes easier when you maintain your health and when you maintain your strength.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that it is so? I feel like it's so hard for women to be like, okay, this is actually, it will get easier, but to see kind of push past the initial discomfort or the initial like breaking a lot of those belief systems, like this is going to be hard. And I think it's like the thought of like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be work. This is going to take a long time, stops people from even trying or
Yeah,
starting.
it does.
And it's like, how can we break through some of that? It's like if you find yourself 40s, 50s, and you're like, I'm very unhealthy. Like, I'm in pain all the time. This sucks. I need to get it together, but it just feels so overwhelming and so big to make the change. Like, what would be that nice little punch that you could give somebody in order to be like, you need it?
There's a lot of things that we can work on there. First, I work with a lot of people today. Like, let's just identify where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get okay with where you are today. Not okay like that's static, but okay, this is where I'm starting from.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand that, I think the biggest problem we all have is we think it's going to, we think and we want things to happen faster than they will. So it's kind of just, even setting it, just letting people, really getting them to go like, okay, this is where it's at and this is the road. We talk about this a lot in finance as well too. Everybody wants to make $1 million overnight. Okay, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've worked in 401k plans for years. We always call it dollar cost averaging. Every little bit over time compounds, and the longer you can do that over time, the benefits compound. And that's the same thing with your health. The longer the little habits that you do over time, positive habits will compound and get easier. And so it's really just really level setting, understanding where you're starting from, and being okay with that, being like, this is my starting point. I get it. Having the patience, understand, okay, maybe I've got a bigger road ahead of me than maybe someone else, but knowing that that's the road and setting out those little habits that are going to help you kind of start that. And we all talk about habit stacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those
Yep.
little things that'll help you keep moving forward. You have to build in little wins along the way as well too. You can't just look at like health is a journey. I got this big sign up here that says health is a journey. It's like enjoy the journey along the way. You're never going to get to the top. And I know for some people, well, if I'm never going to get there, why try?
Yep.
Because when you get a portion of the way up, you're going to look back and be like, oh, wow, look how far I've come.
Mm-hmm.
And you celebrate that win. And then you go a little bit further. And
Yep.
then you look back a little bit. You're like, wow, this is really awesome. Look how far I've come. Freaking amazing. Now let's go a little bit further. So it's
Yep.
just those little wins you have to build in all the time. It's like the little milestones you see with your kids.
Yep.
It's my daughter's senior year and I'm going back and pulling all these pictures. I'm like, oh my gosh, just these things that you have to celebrate along the way or you miss them.
Mm-hmm.
And you need that encouragement. There's a dopamine hit with that as well too.
Yep.
That you have to infuse yourself. But the biggest thing is you've got to have patience with yourself and patience with the journey because you are going to get further. And before you know it, you'll be maybe not exactly where you want to be, but you'll be so much further down. You'll be like, oh, this is feeling really good. I'm ready to take on that next thing.
Yep. I share with you this journey. I'm like, I always talk about health being a process because I'm like, you have to enjoy the process because like it's a lifestyle. Like it's not
It
just,
is.
we're not just trying to get to one thing because guarantee and I'm sure anybody that you've coached is like, once they get that one thing from a money standpoint, from a health standpoint, they're like, okay, well now I want more because it
Yeah,
feels really nice. I'm like, that's why it's a process. It's never ending.
exactly.
We always want more.
And that's a good thing because you
Yeah.
know that then once you've worked on one thing, you're ready to get to the next, you're ready to take on that next thing. And before you know it, you're leading a better, healthier life, a healthier financial life. You're leading all of these things always compound. And it just means you've got to commit to the journey as well too.
Mhm.
So when it gets rough, and this is the other thing too, is I wrote a book about obstacles. Like you are going to have obstacles. You've got to be prepared to go through those obstacles. You've got to be prepared when life throws you a curveball. And whether it's prepared in your attitude or prepared with, okay, well, that kind of sucked. Um, let's regroup. And okay, now how can we go? So be prepared to take a step back and
Mhm.
reevaluate. And maybe the direction you were going, maybe that's not the right one. All right, maybe I need to actually tweak this a little bit. Be okay to tweak, be okay to fail, and be okay to learn from those and then continue moving forward.
That's a hard one.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, for all of us, it is.
Nobody likes to mess up, but being able to acknowledge is like that is the learning opportunity. It's like you're not
Mhm.
going to learn if you just do great at everything. Like we have to mess up.
Oh, absolutely. And especially on your health journey, you're going to find like, oh, I signed up for, let's say, pickleball. And you get out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I really hate pickleball. So, great. You tried it. I mean, that was our biggest thing. Like with kids too. I know you have a lot of women there I can't tell you how many sports my kids tried before they found their one sport.
Yeah.
And we always had this deal with our children. I said, okay, when you start something, you're going to finish the season off. And then
Mhm.
you don't have to do it ever again, especially if you commit to it. So you got to learn. They learned real quick in the season to either say, okay, one or two practices. Yeah, no, I'm not good with this. Okay, good. Let's go. Let's try something else. Let's pivot. Or this sucked. My daughter did soccer. She's like, Mom, when is this over? I'm like, just, you got a few more games and you're
Yeah.
good. But and then she ended up in lacrosse and now she's going to go play lacrosse in college.
That's
But
awesome.
you've got to, just like with your kids, as you try to you stick to something, finish it out. Doesn't mean you have to do it again, but understand, then take a step back and evaluate what you like about it and
Mhm.
what you didn't.
Yep.
So then, like, I loved the weightlifting aspect of CrossFit. I just couldn't get to the classes. I couldn't get to the time. It just didn't work in my schedule.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I like that. How can I do this another way? Then I'm
Mhm.
going to take that and I'm going to build upon it. So that's why I say taking a step back sometimes, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some things in there that you really did like. Pull
Yep.
on those, pivot, and try that and keep fine tuning until you find your thing.
That's so important. That's such a good message that I feel like all women need to hear is that you can revise the plan,
Mhm.
but also that you have to give something enough time to actually figure out what you liked and what you didn't like about it.
Yep.
Because like, oh, after 2 weeks, well, that didn't work. Was like, was 2 weeks really a good enough sample? And did you really try in those 2 weeks, or were you
Right.
almost like halfway out 3 days in?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel like is a good amount of time to, it's like we talk about seasons. So it's like a season in sports, they got to give it some months. So it's like,
Yes.
what's a good trial period in your mind?
Yeah, honestly, and from the research that I've done on some stages of change,
Mhm.
actually it's 6 months.
That's
People
cool.
think 21 days, but really it's about 6 months, because at that 6 month time frame, you're going to really know it's either going to get really easier because
Mhm.
they've noticed that like the 6 to 9 months, it gets easier.
Mhm.
There's really not a difference between 1 and 3 and 3 and 6. It's not till after 6 where you're like, okay, this is becoming easier to me and I can like really work. It's kind of like with your habits, they get easier over time. you'll really know by that point in time whether you really enjoy it or whether you're not. But again, that's that commitment standpoint and the
Mhm.
patience. You've got to sit there and say, okay, I am going to give this a good try. You'll have a good idea after 90 days if you really truly stick with something for 90 days. And if you're still kind of like, oh, I kind of like it, but I'm like, not sure, give it another 90. And
Mhm.
then if you really don't, then really take a step back and be, okay, what did I like? What did I not like? And then kind of retool, repivot, and be like, okay, I'm going to follow along these lines because this is the part I liked about it, and I don't want to do this part. So,
Yep. I like that. That's really research backed. And like I said, in those stages of change fall like right into my wheelhouse. So I like how you tied those things together.
yeah,
So being able to give something, it's like fair enough. I'm going to give it 6 months, see what I like, what I don't like. And I think that we should look at that from a movement perspective, from a
yeah.
nutrition perspective, like all around. Uh, I want to ask about your book, and because I know it's like we're already over on time,
Oh wow.
stealing all your time away. But where can people connect with your book? Like, what is it about? What are they going to benefit from, even in the book?
So I wrote the book. It's called Lessons from the Obstacle Course: 5 Strategies to Conquer the Muddy Fields of Life. And it's really about our obstacle course journey. And like I said, we try to do about 3 to 5 every year, as schedules allow. And it's about all of the mindset and the thought process that we went through and that I went through going through a lot of the obstacles. So I cover, I go over recovery, discovery, persistency, creativity, and collaboration. And it's just about it's mindset, it's overcoming your fears, it's talking about where you need to be persistent, why you need to recover, like all sorts of different little things. And at the end of each chapter, I go through some questions and I give you kind of like a lot of thought material to go through. And hopefully my goal, I hope, is that when you're hitting that obstacle, you might be able to pull back to that chapter and be like, okay, I'm going to go through these questions and see if I can kind of work my way through it. Because a lot of what we do when it comes to obstacles is a lot of self-work. And it's not just self-talk, but it's also, is it what you can control or not control? And
Mhm.
then, there's also part of which has really become my favorite is like collaboration. I really hope I want people to look at life's obstacles like you do when you go out on the field. Like you go out on those obstacle course challenges and you're there because you want to be there. And you're going to have challenges that you're going to face on the field. That's the whole point, right? And even just doing a race, like a 5K race, right? You're there for a reason. So we come at it with excitement. We come at it with, I'm going to go at this and I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it my best. This is going to be fun. You've got your friends with you or whatever. You got a buddy with you, whatever the case may be. And then you leave and you get your bling and you're like, that was great. That sucked, but it was great. And I did this and I'm doing it again, or never again are you going to see me on that field again, right? It doesn't matter, but you gave it your best and you went after it. Why don't we do that in life? I mean, come on. You
Mhm.
can choose to be like, oh, this just really sucks. I don't want to be here. This is another thing that happened to me. Or you can be like, okay, yeah, that did suck. But what can we do about it? Where can I go with this now? How do I retool? Where do I pivot? How do I need to change my mindset? Can I control this? Can I not control it?
Yeah.
Life is here. Y'all, life is fun if you choose to make it that way. And I think that's what we miss sometimes.
Mhm. It's just all about perception.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's that's so
It is.
good.
It's perception and it's what we want to make of it. Do you
Mhm.
want to make it fun? Which obviously I like to make things fun. Or do you want to just take that kind of victim mentality? Unfortunately, I think we got too much of that these days. And I think we just need to say, all of us go through a lot of shenanigans out there. And we just need to just pull ourselves together, find our posse, and move forward. So go find a posse and go get out on that field. And you're going to realize that you are so much stronger than you thought you are. And you're going
Mhm.
to have a lot of fun and you're not going to be afraid of getting muddy and dirty. And then when you get back out on life and you get back out on the real world, you're going to be like, I got this. If I can do that, then I can take on this. So,
Yes.
yeah.
We've all had those moments in our life. I'm like, everybody's been through some stuff.
Hmm.
And it's in that stuff that it's like, okay, I got through that, and I can get through anything. And even if you only got through it in like one or two really highlight ways, it's like if we can just pull upon that and use it to handle life as it comes up again, it's like, yeah, you can do this. Like I'm with you. I believe that everybody has exactly what they need inside of them in order to be able to conquer, be healthier, like get to where they want to go, from wealth to relationships to your health. So that's such a good message. Where can we find the book?
So you can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and I think pretty much almost anywhere books are sold per se, but those are probably the two best places you can find it.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to link that in the description too. So if somebody wants to come up with a wellness strategy plan, where's the best place to get in contact with you?
So you can go to my website. It's kellymajdan.com. Everything's pretty much right there. You can follow us on Power Through Wellness on Instagram and Facebook as well. And yeah, I would love to connect with you and help if I can, or at least drop some little nuggets your way, and we'll go from there.
That's perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm going to link that in the description for everybody. And I may just have to have you back on. So we're mindset is right in the same realm. I feel like we just could go on and on talking about all kinds of things. So
Oh, that's
awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.